Is you ready?
I am. You have to make me host so I can share my screen, but yeah, or maybe not. I see share my screen. Before I share my screen, I kind of want to give everybody a little idea about who I am that might help you understand why I am presenting on the topic. I worked in mortgages back in 2004 through 2000 or 2002 to 2006 for 4 years. Then I went and had kids and became a teacher. I was a teacher for 9 years, so I love these presentations. It gets my little teacher kick going. Um, and then I came back to mortgages after I had my second kid, and I worked in mortgages again as a lender and as an assistant to a lender. And then lastly, I got my real estate license 2 years ago. One thing is this is I'm thrifty. I am resourceful and thrifty as all get out. So I love a good deal. I love to find my clients money. I love to save myself money. So that's one of the reasons I'm really drawn to this. So I just want you to know that's where I come from so that when you understand why I might be doing this presentation. I'm not a know-it-all of everything, but I'm resourceful. So if you have questions outside of this, let me know. I'll share this presentation, and I'm also working on a Google spreadsheet or a Google Drive file to share with everybody that has links to all these programs and in a table format. So if you find a client, you're like, oh, they want to buy in blank, you can use that as a reference. I think that might be helpful. If at any point you have questions, just pop in. I don't mind being interrupted. So I have a picture of a wedding cake here because I believe that a truly good lender is like a wedding cake maker. You have to have a mortgage, which is the cake, right? You have to qualify to get a mortgage. But once the lender does that, they're like a cake decorator. They can start to add programs and things to the cake to make it a better option for your client. So some of the stuff I'm about to talk about, you can layer like a cake, and you can add stuff to it to give yourself a benefit to your, or give your clients a benefit. I have in the past years used 3 programs, 2 programs, or 1 program to get my clients anywhere from $3,000 to $32,000 to help them with their down payment. And the incentive for us as real estate agents to have this information is we're helping our clients afford the house in a safe way that we're not making them house rich and cash poor, but also you're giving them an advantage to maybe buy a house they didn't qualify for if they use just a basic mortgage, which yes, that advantages us. Let's be honest. That means more sale price, more commission. I'm not going to lie. I'm very transparent, but really in the end, you're getting your clients a house in a way they maybe couldn't have in the past. So that's super important, I believe. So I'm going to talk about statewide programs. Do you guys see the this over here? Do I need to close that up? There we go. Statewide programs.
Yes.
A lot of the programs are statewide, but everybody sees my slideshow, right? Somebody holler yes or no.
Yes.
I see it.
Yeah.
Awesome, thanks. Okay, so this is one a lot of us have heard about. This is Minnesota housing. You probably heard a lot about Minnesota housing, but it's not the only one, but it's a good one. Minnesota housing is one that I'm really proud of the fact that using Minnesota housing, they have a less than 1% foreclosure rate. So don't let people tell you that using these, down payment programs makes people who should never buy a house, get a house, and then they foreclose. It's not true. Minnesota housing has great statistics, but that's actually not accurate. Minnesota housing has some criteria that has changed since COVID. It used to be a minimum of 640, but it's changing. So just know that. Usually 640 is probably the recommended when you use secondary loans, but it varies from lender to lender. Some of our lenders that you probably worked with have actually dropped Minnesota housing for now and won't be picking it back up until things improve. So we've lost a lot of our clients' options, which is another reason later on the slideshow, you'll see options that are beyond Minnesota housing that don't care about credit score. There are income limits and sales price limits. This program gets you $17,000 to help your client. That payment and interest bearing loan though. So it adds to your client's payment, which may or may not help them get the house they want. So you have to keep that in mind before you start looking for houses. If you're using the basic Minnesota housing program, there is a payment. They'll pay it off in 10 years, which is nice, but there is a payment. Next, you have a really unique Minnesota housing program that a lot of people don't talk about, which is the deferred payment program. The deferred payment means that they have no payment and no interest. No payment, no interest. So you're getting your clients money. Mind you, every program I'm talking about, they have to pay back, just to be very clear. Every program you have to pay back. Free money does not exist. It
That's
doesn't.
right.
Elizabeth?
Yep.
Liz, will you be sharing these couple slides with us after?
I will. I talk very fast, but yes, because I
Okay.
talk really fast.
No,
I
that's fine.
no,
That's good.
no,
Good.
honey. I will. I'm going to share the slideshow and I'm going to share the handout I have, which gives them side by side in a table, so you can kind of compare.
Okay, thanks.
But I really want this program to be known because a lot of people don't use it. Deferred payment loan on the left, you see over here, that's a $10,000 no payment, no interest loan. Okay, that's really helpful. On the right, you see a program that I think is even more important, which is the deferred payment loan, no payment, no interest, sole head of household. Oh, wait, this one might, sorry. No payment, no interest, $10,000 is great. But the one on the right is actually $13,000. $13,000, no payment, no interest, but you have to qualify in 2 of the 4 of those categories. Now, front end ratio, if you're in lending and understand, that's not that hard to meet. What is hard to meet, though, is maybe the other 2. But it's great for people who are single mothers, single fathers, people with an elderly family member in the household, any of your clients with a disability, or a family of 4 or more. I think a lot of us work with clients that have 4 or more in their family. And to be clear, Minnesota Housing says you define your family. So there isn't necessary documentation on who the family is. People don't have to be worried that they're letting people know that they have family living with them. But it is household income. Household income is important in qualifying people for any of these programs, to be clear. So they will ask for past taxes. All of these programs are going to ask for 2 to 3 years of past taxes. So just know that, okay? But they get to define their own household. If you have a question, I can't see the chat box, you might want to holler out at me, just letting you know. This program is interesting, Midwest Minnesota Community Development. They offer a $3,000 loan that is, again, no interest, no payment, okay? This money often runs out. MMCD used to have a program called Project Reinvest, which was statewide. If you hadn't heard of Project Reinvest, it was the money that Wells Fargo was sued over. When Wells Fargo was doing unfair practices in lending, they were sued. Pardon me?
No, I just agreeing with you, Liz.
Oh yeah, yep. So, but Wells Fargo was sued and the money was put into Project Reinvest. That was statewide and available for a few years. That is no longer available and may never be refunded or reloaded. So that money might not come available, but MMCDC was one of the companies that had access to that funds. It's now down to $3,000. It used to be 10, okay? Also, you see the word here, owner occupied. All of these programs are going to require owner occupancy. These are not investor programs. And all of them will want to know as soon as the person no longer inhabits the home and makes it into a rental property or leaves or vacates in any way. They will want their money back, just so you know. All of these programs take that very seriously. They will recapture the money if the person moves out. So just remind your clients that this isn't a way to like slickly get into an investment property. They will know the difference. This is a program I didn't know about until yesterday when I was doing my research, but I put a match there because they do matching funds. This is something for your client that's on track to buy. These are for people who are willing to work with the client for a while. And as they save money, FAM will match the funds. It's also for other things like launching a business and higher ed, which I thought was interesting. But purchasing a home is something you'd obviously be caring about. But for those of you who might want to consider your own home ownership goals, you should look into FAM. And I like this, that they do a lot of asset planning training and financial literacy. Pretty much all of these programs, though, are going to require them to take either frameworks or home stretch. Those are 2 different programs. And please be clear which program they're using, which program they can use, because this program only allows one type. And if your client takes the other one, they will be told they have to take both. So please check with the program to know what class they have to take. Frameworks is online, Homestretch is online sometimes, but mostly in person. So you want to know about that. Those are small fees for those classes. Almost nobody offers them for free. And when they take the class, the certificate for the money for the class is only good for about 1 year. So you also want to make sure clients are really ready when they take that class. Islamic financing. Some of us are working with Islamic clients. Islamic financing is different. I'm not going to teach on that, but you should tap into it if you're interested. But there is a down payment assistance program called SACAN. Sakan is a program that gives Islamic financing borrowers a chance to also get down payment assistance. I think it's very interesting, and there's a couple lenders outside of Sakan. I think Guidance is one that also offers a down payment assistance program. You can follow up with the agents or the lender you're working with in Islamic financing to find out. Another statewide program. I've specifically worked in this with Habitat for Humanity for a client. I think it's stellar. I would take a raise of hands, but a lot of us, I think Habitat for Humanity requires people to build their own home or help build homes. That was true. It is no longer true. So you don't even have to do the volunteer work. They've decided families are too busy for that. You, of course, yourself can always work on a Habitat home and help build it, but you don't have to. Habitat homes are new construction. There's a huge community of new construction Habitat homes in Hugo, actually. They got the land donated and they built all of these townhouses. And they're always looking for people to help build in that townhouse community if anybody's looking for a volunteer for their team or personally for their family. But Habitat for Humanity buys homes and gets homes donated and builds brand new homes. But you don't have to use this money to buy a Habitat home. I found that really interesting. I think people should know. If your client is in low income, but is really going to work hard and they don't mind jumping through hoops, I highly recommend Habitat for Humanity. Habitat for Humanity is a low interest mortgage, which also allows them more buying opportunity. Low interest mortgage to the point where it was 3% for my client fixed rate. My client got $30,000 to help with her down payment and closing costs, making the townhouse she purchased able to be bought for less than $2,000. Actually, I'm sorry, her monthly payment was like, I think $1,100. It was so cheap. No MI, no mortgage insurance, no required down payment, and it can be layered with other programs. If you haven't heard of Habitat or tried working with Habitat, you can also be a Habitat for Humanity realtor where they will use you to help sell their properties. I recommend tapping into that for clients, again, that are willing to jump through some hoops, but they can get a lot of advantages with Habitat. Habitat also had properties in North Minneapolis that they rehabbed and were having a hard time selling. So if you have a client wanting to live in North Minneapolis, there's great opportunity for them there. I think there's some stuff in chat. Let me double check here. Chat. Oh yeah, I agree. NRG Build Day would be great. I also will put the links in for everything I'm talking about.
Okay.
I promise. The stats of Minnesota housing success, that might be on their website, but I highly recommend, I love working with the people at Habitat or in Minnesota Housing. There's actually a phone number that agents and realtors can call directly and an email address you can call and ask questions about Minnesota Housing that I recommend. And yeah, Habitat for Humanity is amazing.
I've mostly worked, this is Amy, I've mostly worked with Habitat, and we do a lot with them through SPAR, but I have seen and heard mixed things about Minnesota Housing. So I just was, when you said that, I was like, kind of intrigued. So.
Yeah. Henry Momoto is the guy who is the spokesperson kind of for Minnesota Housing that goes to events. You might have seen him at tables. I recommend talking to Henry to get that. And he will always do Minnesota Housing trainings for any team or NRG. So Omid, in the future, we could have him talk because things have changed for them. But I do recommend Henry. Henry's great. And then
we should do that. I think that would be super beneficial to have them.
I agree
through
with you,
SPAR, we have Habitat come. And well, we've been doing it just through Zoom right now. So we've actually had them come into our Zoom committee meetings and discuss with us about, you know, future stuff with the market. So if we could get someone like that, if they have time to come on even a Zoom like this when we do something, that would be awesome.
I agree.
That would be great.
Some of these programs are underutilized and some are overutilized, I feel like. So really some of these programs also, Omed, as we're on it, there's a guy by the name, I think his name is Nick, who's still there at Neighborhood Work or the Neighborhood Works or Neighborhood Center. He's actually a realtor that his whole job is to find out about DPAs and inform realtors about DPAs. And there used to be a once a month Thursday meeting where they would go and they would give you updates on programs that had funding, programs that had run out. Program updates were really good. It was just like a quick networking thing once a month. I'm not sure if they're still doing that, but Nick, I believe, was the contact there.
Okay, do you know Nick's last name?
No, but I can send you his email.
Okay, sounds good. Please do.
Yeah, for sure. So next, now these are ones that are very specific on location. Everything I showed you before was statewide. Okay. Now there's some that are based on location. So Minneapolis, Grow North. A lot, these next 4 or 5 are very specifically Minneapolis and North Minneapolis. Okay. So if you have somebody that works in North Minneapolis, their employer has them in North Minneapolis, they want to move to North Minneapolis and live, there's an advantage of getting up to $10,000 to help them. That's a great program, again, for North Minneapolis. Some of us could go in to an office in North Minneapolis with a lot of employees and market this program if you knew about it and understood it, right? That's a really nice idea for marketing. Next, we have Affordability Gap Homebuyer Assistance. Again, North, it's in Minneapolis. You can use this for new construction, but this is very specific to properties that the city of Minneapolis has already bought and already done work on. But you guys, you can get up to $95,000 for your client. $95,000. You can get somebody into a house and help them. Again, lots of hoops to jump through, but if they want to live in Minneapolis in specific properties, they have lots of properties that are waiting for people to purchase that are qualified with a mortgage. That's a huge chunk of money. This is very income-based. A lot of these programs have area median income qualifications. So just so you know that when you work with the client, don't get, it's not your fault. It's really the lender's job. But just so you know, be aware that there's a lot of income-based limitations to some of these. Minnesota housing income limit's like $115,000 a family, a household. But some of these 80%, I think I was talking to a client the other day, and a family of 3 had to make less than $75,000. So just things like that you might want to know.
So Liz, this is Andy. So these homes, when you say specific, does that mean they're in a specific neighborhood?
I mean, first of all of these, on these cream slides, they're all Minneapolis-based properties. So they're in Minneapolis, first of all. Second of all, they're properties the city has acquired. And the city, in one of the properties I know, the city acquired it and they actually did asbestos removal, put a new roof on. They did a bunch of things to get it ready, and then they were selling it to a homeowner. Okay. At a reduced rate too, I have to be clear, like these houses are not going to be a big income maker for the city. But so this program specifically, there's a list of properties on the Minneapolis City website with Minneapolis Community Development Agency, which is Matthew Ramadan would be the contact there. Matthew is very, very knowledgeable of these programs, and he's the one you can talk to. And he also will do presentations to both investors and buyers for you. He really, really wants to get investors of diversity and bring diversity and equity into the Twin Cities area for builders and investors. So if you have an investor that wants to start trying, the city actually will give them up to $75,000 to help them build a house that then they will sell for an affordability price, and then give the borrower up to $95,000.
Okay.
He is willing to give a lot of money to investors, though. We'll talk. I recommend going to Matthew Ramadan directly because the programs are really interesting, but they are struggling to find builders who are willing to do these programs in North Minneapolis, where some people think there isn't an investment opportunity, but there is. And there are buyers that want Minneapolis and North Minneapolis. Don't be fooled that those are not neighborhoods that are growing and changing and are doing well. So something to think about. But
what's his last name? How do you spell it, Liz?
Ramadan, like the holiday, Matthew Ramadan. And also Erica, but I think it's spelled with an A, at the city of Minneapolis is also great. Sorry, my dog is deciding to sing now. I apologize. So I recommend both of those people as a contact and maybe to have them come in and talk. I worry about the city of Minneapolis programs only because I feel like they're a purple squirrel in the world where there may not be the qualified borrower to match up for these amazing programs they're offering, but those programs are out there. If you have a client who's, again, willing to wait. I had a client who worked with one of these programs, went through 5 different lenders before he finally got it done, but he ended up buying with one of these programs, and I think it saved him like $75,000 in down payment assistance, but it took him about 9 months to get that money and get so it's not for everybody, but it is out there. Next, another Minneapolis program, Home Ownership Works. How? These are properties, again, that have been.
Liz, I think you may have hit mute. I can't hear you.
Okay. Let me see here.
I can hear you.
I can hear you too.
You can hear me now? Awesome. I did walk downstairs because my kids came upstairs to sing. So this program, homeownership works. And let me see, I just don't want to make sure. I think I skipped. Here we go. There's HOM and HOW. They're two different programs. This program also is very specific on building. Andy, like we talked about, this one you also need to have only properties that have already been bought by the city and rehabbed by the city. So we're not talking about projects that the buyer needs to do rehabilitation work on. The city already spent the money to rehab them. They already had builders working to rehab them. And this one will give you up to $15,000. Okay. Next, we have the Build Home Buyer Incentive. This program is so unique, and I think this is great, again, for the right person. This is a 5-year forgivable loan. If the person stays in the property for 5 years, they can get $20,000 to build a 1 to 4-plex. So multifamily. This program, if used properly, is a way to help people build wealth. They have to be able to afford the property with the renter's income included. So that's a way for them to increase their buying options, right? Bringing in renters. They do not have to have experience as a landlord in the past. If they are any of these things, police officer, firefighter, EMT, or a teacher in the Minneapolis public area, they get another $5,000. So again, if you have the right client who's willing and wanting to build their wealth, Amy, I think you've got some clients that would be great for this program. Build wealth, give people an opportunity to be more than just a homeowner. This is an interesting program in Ramsey County. Ramsey County has $15,000, no interest, no payment. But they have, interestingly, not the city of St. Paul. All of Ramsey County practically, but not the city of St. Paul. Buyers only have to have $2,000 into the investment of the home. So if you got a client with limited cash flow, low income, so 80% AMI, which I put a link in here so you can find out what that is in Ramsey County, that's $15,000. And here's the thing. Some of these programs do not require a credit score. If the lender will accept a community second and you can get an approved, this is how you can help them get $15,000 and save them their savings account. Help them get the down payment they need. So Ramsey County is one also. Woodbury has a program, $25,000 for Woodbury. Income limit is $95,000, mind you, and they do have, a lot of these programs have purchase price limits, just so you know, but some don't. Some of the Minneapolis programs have no purchase price limit. But Woodbury, $25,000. Come Home to Edina. Some people find this one kind of interesting, but you can buy an Edina with up to $60,000 to help you with your purchase.
Serious.
Yeah, $60,000. Here's the thing about the Come Home to Edina program. I highly recommend that you have your client talk to the woman in charge, which Stephanie Hawkins is her name. What is really nice about this program is they actually have to spend at least 25% of their income on the payment. What was interesting for my client was she actually had to do a 20-year mortgage to get to that 25%, but it was amazing for her to have the same payment on a 25-year mortgage than it was on a 30-year mortgage. And she got 25% of her purchase. Her purchase was only a $130,000 condo, but with the HOAs on top of that, it made it almost impossible for her to buy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, interesting program. The one thing that's a warning on Come Home to Edina is it does charge interest on the loan you're getting, but the client cannot pay down the loan. They can only pay on the interest. So you want to make sure your client's very well aware that they will never be mortgage free with Come Home to Edina unless they refinance out of it.
I see.
But you're talking about helping people get into Edina that maybe couldn't before into a property that they couldn't afford without this program. So Come Home to Edina is really interesting.
Who was the lender that helped with that transaction, Liz? Do you remember?
Well, that's another thing. Thank you, Amy. A lot of these programs are lender specific because the lender has to agree to take a community second, first of all. If they don't agree to a community second, then you can't use any of these programs because that's what you're using. They're getting a second mortgage. It's called a soft second in our industry, but all of these programs have lenders they work with on their website. Come Home to Edina. Stephanie Hawkins sent me a list of who she's closed deals with in the last year. And so I got a list of those lenders. And then I just kind of looked at who in my network already worked there. So the client was with AMEC, actually, AMEC, AMEC. That's who worked on this loan with me. Washington County, again, I said Woodbury, but now Washington County. Washington County has $10,000 available. But again, it's got to be that AMI. Okay. And this is definitely a first-time home buyer program. Not all of these programs are first-time home buyer, let me be clear. Minnesota Housing will let you have a home, but step up to your next home, which means some of your buyers who are going to sell with you and buy another house, they don't have to spend all of their equity. They can get money from Minnesota Housing for the step up program. So just know that, but a lot of these programs are for first-time home buyers. And first-time home buyer by definition almost always means not have owned within the last 3 years. So not never, just not in the last 3 years. Okay, this is the only grant I know of. There is no other grant I know of but this one, and that is Scott County. Scott County has a program where you can get $4,000 as a grant. The class must be taken before you write a purchase agreement, not after, not in the middle. This isn't a saving grace. They have to have taken the class before. I will say that what I like to tell my clients about Minnesota Housing and this first-time homebuyer and all these classes that they have to take, think about it. You're getting paid. If you do the Minnesota Housing all-day class of 8 hours, but you get $17,000 or $10,000 or $13,000, you're paying yourself $1,000 an hour for your time. This grant can be layered with other programs. So $4,000 grant, this is a way for us to help not ask for seller paid closing costs. In the market that's about to come, we're not going to have as much, leeway with seller paid closing costs probably. So this $4,000 grant, they do have to take a class, but I think it's wonderful because they actually provide credit consumer financial education. They help them improve their credit score and they help them understand what they're getting themselves into and how to make an informed, better choice. So I recommend Scott County. They're not meeting face-to-face right now. I don't think they're going to take their classes till June. But this program is one of the few that's actually a grant. And I believe that's it. There are other programs I didn't get time to research to put into it. Eden Prairie had a program. I don't know if it still exists. Shoreview had a program. Dakota County is a program. I don't do a lot with Dakota County, but Dakota County has something very similar to Minnesota Housing, but Minnesota Housing and Dakota County cannot be layered. They're very separate entities. I think Dakota County is $8,000, but it'd be very similar to Minnesota Housing. Again, there are other programs I'm sure out there. You'd be surprised what's out there. And there might be more actually coming in the near future. So keep your eyes on those ideas, share them with each other. The Nick at Home ownership, whatever, is a great resource. Go to that class. Their website offers things. There used to be like Rondo neighborhood money. There used to be money in St. Paul. Sometimes St. Paul has programs where they bought houses and they'll sell the houses at a reduced rate. Here, by the way, I could show you guys. I could go back to it. I have the document, like I said, of a side-by-side I'll be sharing with you guys. I'll send it to Francis, the PowerPoint and that handout. I hope it was helpful to people to know that don't ever let people tell you there's no money out there to help first-time home buyers. There is. You just have to figure it out and then know that in the end, the lender is the one who needs to educate the client on making a good financial choice. So I think you want to just make sure that your lender is doing a good job. Oh, definitely, you guys, there are loans for renovations that I'm not even going to touch that. There's so many. City, county, you can get lots of money for renovations. Minnesota Housing has a program that literally the day after you buy your house, you can get renovation money from Minnesota Housing. But I have a client right now, you guys, that got 2 renovation loans and is now trying to sell their house and they're probably 125% in debt. So
Boy.
renovation loans are great, but I don't know if all those programs are doing their due diligence to not get people in over their heads. Just to be careful. The market sometimes doesn't like the house after you've done all the renovations. You have to be careful. And if anybody has any direct questions, raise your hand, or now I can see the chat. Again, I know for sure I did not touch on Shoreview and Dakota County. Those are two programs I didn't touch on. And Eden Prairie, like I said, had money, but I'm not sure if all of these programs are always tentative on funding. So hopefully that was helpful.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, that was pretty amazing information. Thank you.
Yes.
Does anyone have any questions for Liz?
What about counties that are?
Love you.
What about counties that are outside of the metro area? Like, for example, the
Wright County.
Wright County, Meeker County, McLeod County, Anoka County. How do you go about finding out that information?
That's a really good question. Honestly, the best thing to do is like what I did, just Google Anoka County home buyer program. Anoka County, last I checked, has nothing. Meeker and Wright, I don't do a lot of business in those counties, but definitely all you have to do is type the name of the county and home buyer assistance, but make sure you put in the county and then go to the county's website. Don't go to a random website. Go to the home buyer or homeowners. I'll look it up real quick, you guys, as I'm talking to you. Home ownership program. Oh. Yeah, there's Minnesota. They're in St. Paul. Minnesota Home Ownership Center is a great place to tap in to see what they're offering. And we can definitely get more people on to present on those counties. I'm not an elitist in that way. I just don't do a lot of work in those areas.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate
Yeah, definitely just Google, or actually, right now, if you can also call your county and say, hey, do you guys have any home buyer programs?
Okay.
Most of these programs are funded by county CDA, community development. So you want to call the community development agency of the county and ask them, or the local city. Again, though, once your homeowners are in the home, there's a lot of money offered by cities, and local cities have money to help them with renovation and fix up funds. The other thing to be aware of is a lot of these counties have foreclosure programs to help people not fall into foreclosure, which right now is super important. Minnesota Housing also has a foreclosure program to help people. So make sure you're telling your clients to tap into that if you're working with clients who had previously bought with you, or if you have a friend or family member, look into it before it's too late. Don't wait till you're 5 months into your foreclosure process.
Very helpful. Thank you very much.
And Omed and I talked, so I'm going to do one on Authentisign templates. Anybody holler out if you know how to use templates in Authentisign. I see Amy shaking her head.
I know how to do it, yeah.
Brent knows how? Nice.
Send out an email for that.
I do know.
Okay. I'm going to, Marcus, I figured, yeah, a couple, but I think it's helpful for people so you don't have to click all those buttons every single darn time.
Yeah.
Thanks for your time, everybody.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz.
Thank you, Liz.
Thank you, Liz.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, have a great day, everyone.
I want to see your young builders working with that Minnesota housing program. I think that'd be so cool to get one of you.
Yeah, like all those different things. I'm like, we need to.
Yeah, you need to tap in with one of your builders because, so here's the thing Matthew Ramadan explained. If somebody builds a property, the builder has a $75,000 payment from the city if they sell it for less than market value. So if it costs them $5,000 to build it, $500,000, but they can't sell it for $500,000, but they can sell it for $425,000, the city will give the builder that $75,000 gap money.
Oh, wow.
And then the buyer, if they can't afford $425,000, can get up to $95,000 to get them to that point.
That's
Really?
awesome.
So Matthew Ramadan said, ideally you get a builder and a buyer already lined up, and the buyer literally gets to tell the builder like what countertops they want, how they want the place to look, and they can build a duplex or a fourplex. And that's what we're talking. The city's giving away like over $100,000 to do that. And there's not many people that are tapping into that. That's good. That's good assistance from the city. And to be clear, for those of you, Matthew Ramadan explained it to me this way. That $100,000 sounds like a lot for one property, but the city has vacant land and buildings that are run down. It's not good for the community, and they want to see homeownership values grow, but they more than anything want people in North Minneapolis and Minneapolis to have wealth. And that's something that's been withheld for people of color and people in those communities for too long. So they're desperately looking to diversify those communities and bring in good home ownership for people. Because if people own their homes, we know the communities are better.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Yay. This was awesome. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I'm done rattling on, but if you have questions, email me. Have a great day.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Have a good day, everyone.
All right. Bye-bye.